Hello everyone, this is Isabel. I'm in Singapore. I'm at Submarine Networks World 2022. And today I'm joined by the one and only Mike Constable. He's Chief Strategy Officer at HMN Technologies. Mike, welcome to the hot seat.
Thank you very much. Nice to see you again.
You're a return victim of mine, so you know how this works.
Indeed I am.
So you know what's coming. Ready?
Sure.
So the first question to you is, what about the investment? We see a lot of investment going towards data centers, metro networks, and towers, but not so much going toward the submarine networks. Why is that?
Yeah, I think you've got to look at it from the infrastructure fund's perspective. They understand towers and they understand data centers. It's merely a property play. But when it comes to subsea cables, they are investing, but in a slightly different way, which I'll come to. Bottom line, it's about risk profile. With property assets such as data centers and towers, it's very easily understood where the infrastructure funds are getting long-term, stable revenue streams and cash flow yields. But the risk profile of a subsea cable is very, very different, as are the economics. So I think there's a bit of a lack of understanding of the economics with the infrastructure funds. But where they are investing is through their portfolio companies. So if you look at 3i, for example, who just the other day made an announcement that they have acquired Global Cloud Exchange's network for 500 million plus. Or you look at Macquarie Infrastructure, their digital infrastructure fund, who have acquired Vocus. So the infrastructure funds are investing, but through their portfolio cables, not up front themselves. And that really comes down to the risk appetite and the risk profile of subsea versus more simple assets such as data centers and towers.
So, second question, if we look into Mike's crystal ball, I'm sure we'll see lots of interesting things. But let's focus on ownership, the other side of the coin. We talked about investment. Now, let's look into the ownership part of the business. So, what's the status? Do you think there's still space for the traditional telcos in the business, or do you think the future is going to be ruled by OTTs?
Yeah, look, that's a really good question. I think there is space for the traditional telcos, but on a sort of more of a minimal perspective. Now, I say that because, if you look historically, we're not getting the AT&Ts and the BTs and the Deutsche Telecoms investing anymore. In fact, in Europe and in the States, you're not really seeing traditional telcos invest. You are still seeing that slightly down here in Asia and to a certain extent in the Middle East. But you've got to look at where the traditional telcos are now. They have their own challenges with their digital transformation and therefore their allocation of capital. They are looking to allocate capital where their best and fastest returns can come from. And that's not always subsea infrastructure when it compares to 5G or services. So I see the traditional telcos investing less and less at the start of a greenfields development because with a couple of years to bring your partners together, a couple of years to build a system, and then a couple of years or actually 4 to 5 years to break even, you're talking an investment horizon of sort of 8 to 9 years. Now, compare that to allocating capital elsewhere and the challenges of their own digital transformation. I think they will still play a role, but I think that will be more on a fibre pair basis after a system is built, rather than going upfront in the early days of germinating a subsea system.
Okay. Now, last question. We keep looking into your crystal ball. What do you see when you look at the next big disruptor in our industry?
I don't necessarily see a disruptor. I think what we're going to see is a continued evolution. And I think what we'll see is more data center organizations investing in subsea infrastructure. You've got Keppel investing, you've got NTT out of Japan investing, you've got some of the other data centers actually acquiring submarine assets, one in Africa, which I'm sure most people know. So I think you'll start to see the data center people look more at subsea investment as a way to compound the value proposition of their data center investments. Also, I think that while the OTTs that we know of will continue to dominate, there is a longer tail of smaller content players. Let's say, for example, Netflix or LinkedIn or even Apple, organizations like that, who will maybe look at subsea investment more, particularly as the cost barriers are coming down. We're putting a lot more fibres into cables, therefore the price of a fibre is dramatically reducing. So that does lower the barrier to entry for more of the smaller content players.
Okay. So it looks like you survived another interview on the hot seat. Are you relieved?
Absolutely, yes. Always a favourite time.
Always a pleasure to have you on my hot seat, Mike. So thank you very much. And who knows when next we'll meet and do another interview.
Indeed. I look forward to it though.
Thank you. Everyone, thank you for watching, and until my next hot shot.